Hi, my name's Eric Olson, attorney and director of HELPS. I'm going to discuss and answer the question why state tax collectors cannot take your Social Security. Okay? So here's the law. Social Security Regulation 79.4. And the only one who can take your Social Security is IRS, okay, for taxes owed, or for child support or alimony. Child support and alimony doesn't happen very often, but they could garnish up to 50 to 60% of a person's Social Security. Now, the law says the IRS can take, doesn't limit the amount the IRS can take, but IRS has regulations or rules that if they were going to take your Social Security, they can do an offset of 15% of your Social Security, but they won't do that until they give you a notice of intent to do that, 60-day notice. And if you're lower income, like $2,200 or less for a single person and maybe $3,100 for a couple, you can qualify for currently not collectible status, and so you won't have to pay the tax. Now, if you can afford it, you can pay it, but if it's going to cut back on your needs, and then no, you don't have to pay, get on currently not collectible status. But the law is really clear. A state tax collector can't take your Social Security, okay? Now, a state tax collector isn't going to tell you that. If you're a senior and you owe taxes and you get a tax notice or you get calls, they're not going to tell you that. They should, but they normally wouldn't. But you don't have to pay them. So what about if your Social Security, what happens when it gets into your bank account? Can they get it then? Answers no. And the reason is a rule went into effect in 2012 that instructs banks that if there's a writ of garnishment from anyone, from a debt collector, like a credit card you owe or some other bill, or if they got a garnishment from the state for taxes owed, the bank has to examine your bank account and determine if there were any federal benefits that got deposited in there, such as Social Security, VA benefit, U.S. Post Office was a federal benefit, and they have to times the monthly amount times 2. That amount is automatically protected from garnishment in the bank into which it's deposited, regardless of what funds are, where the source of funds actually in the account at the time of garnishment. So that means if you got $1,500 in Social Security, $3,000 in the account would be protected from garnishment. Automatically, the bank does it for you. They have like 48 hours to examine the account, determine where the money came from. Then they have to release the funds. They usually do it quicker than that. And that includes from a state tax collector. So you don't have to worry about it. That law has been in effect for quite a while. The reason it was passed is before that law went into effect, a lot of seniors were being garnished and they were losing their money, and they didn't know that they had to file some paperwork to get it back. And so Congress did an end run by establishing some rules that instruct banks, hey, protect twice the amount of Social Security. And the bank said, well, that's kind of difficult for us to identify what monies are in there. And the rule said, well, okay, we'll make it easy on you. All you have to do is say, to identify how much they get each month in a federal benefit, Social Security, times that times 2. That amount is protected. Doesn't matter what monies are in the account or where they came from at that specific time that are in the account. So that's why your Social Security is protected. Now, what about a pension? Okay, in 1974, a law was passed. It was called Employment Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. It's called ERISA. You may have heard of it. Almost all pensions nowadays are covered under ERISA laws. So pensions under ERISA are protected also from garnishment by debt collectors. They can't garnish your pension. And they can't, and including a state tax collector. Okay, so what happens if the pension gets deposited into your bank account? Well, then it could be a little bit fair game. It's not automatically protected like a bank account to which Social Security goes. So if you get a pension, you want to make sure that it's deposited into your bank account to which Social Security goes. And as long as Social Security times 2, that sum is that sum is protected, even if some of your ERISA money goes in there, or any other funds. Now, if you got more than that in there from these protected funds, under various state laws, you could file a challenge of garnishment or claim of exemption to get it back. But if it was a state tax collector that garnished your bank account, and it was more than twice the amount of your federal benefits in there, it might be kind of hard to get it. You have to go directly to the state tax collector because they don't go through court. They have their own laws. But you could. It just makes it difficult. So if you're at risk from a state tax collector, just keep the money in your bank account less than twice the amount of your Social Security. And that's protected automatically by the bank. So there's laws that protect that money, and state tax collectors aren't probably going to tell you that, but you need to know it. And hopefully this is helpful information. What we do is we represent lower income seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. Under federal law, if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call you or send you demand letters in the mail anymore. They have to leave you alone. So people find out about HELPS. They call us on the phone. We talk to them about their situation. If they enroll in our program, we send out, they give us who they owe money to. We send out what's called a cease and desist letter. Tell the creditor or the collector they owe money to, hey, we represent this person for purpose of communication. Don't bother them anymore. If you got any questions, call us. Okay, we don't do debt negotiation or debt settlement, none of that. You don't need to pay the debt. You can't afford to pay it. Your income's protected. But we protect you from collectors harassing you. And then our second mission is to educate seniors, lower income seniors and disabled persons, how they can maintain their financial independence. So that's why I'm doing this video, letting you know how your income is protected automatically. If you have any questions, you can call us. The number below, or get on our website, www.helpsishere.org, or look at some of our videos on our YouTube page. We've got scores of videos on all kinds of topics. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay, we don't turn anyone away. And you have a great day.